I've rolled double six. Does this mean I get to go again? Oh wait, I got directed to jail because it's my third in a row.
Oh, AJ, you'll like this before we get rolling. You know how much Susan loves RJ City, right?
Yeah, you know we're live, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, RJ City's
Well,
on the
I
cruise.
pal.
I can't. I was like, I was like, do I tell him? Because I kind of want to hear this RJ City thing.
Yeah, I'm leaving it in.
No, it's just RJ City's going to be on the cruise.
Oh. And on that bombshell, welcome to episode 34 of the Movie Club, where it's time to discuss the Snooky Eyes. No, not the G.I. Joe one, the other one. That's not going to be confusing at any point. It's not, because we didn't watch that.
Let me just say, I enjoyed the hell out of Snake Eye.
Which one?
I'm glad you said that, because I was like I told you it was Snake Eyes, and then I was like, I didn't tell him which one, but then I thought, surely he wouldn't think it's the G.I. Joe one, right? Surely he wouldn't think that.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I watched the Nick Cage one.
Good.
That
The
would
Nick
have been
Cage
an
one where
interesting.
the villain is the same name as a guy that's acting in the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ashley here hosting, along with Chris,
Kevin Dunn.
AJ.
Yes.
Finishing my point.
I thought we were gonna have a trend where you were just gonna randomly say like Gary Sinise, and we just name everybody, somebody that's in the film.
Damn, I should have done. But that's the thing, though. Is he started with Kevin Dunn, so will we doing actors or will we doing characters? Nobody will know.
Exactly.
And
the next one Nick Cage? He's who knows?
And the selector, Owen.
Hi, everyone. Kind of had a plan today that I was going to be on camera. Yep. Nope. Not yet. Soon. Hopefully. So yeah. Welcome, everyone. It's my choice for Movie Club. And this is episode 34. We're going to take you back to 1998. I didn't watch this movie when it first came out. I found it after the fact. Actually, I believe I found it at the old Reliable video store. And I had this thing that, if you've been paying attention to Movie Club for a while, I kind of like boxing movies a lot. And 2 years prior was The Great White Hype. Well, 2 years later, so Brian De Palma came up with this wonderful thriller that was centered around a phantom punch during a championship boxing fight that started a domino effect that affected this entire casino and everybody around it. This was during the middle of a hurricane, too, so it was a very interesting dichotomy of things going on at the same time. And surrounding it, the man, the myth, the legend, Nicolas Cage. Yeah, I love Snake Eyes the first time I saw it. It's always been a pick I've been wanting to bring to Movie Club for a while. If you haven't noticed, my picks for Movie Club are kind of all over the place. But they kind of say a little bit about myself when it comes to the things I enjoy. I don't bring anything to Movie Club that I haven't been at least somewhat fanatical about, at least at one point in my life. And Snake Eyes certainly fits the bill here. I mean, there's many times that, and AJ will back me up on this, I just would randomly say, everybody loves Rick Santoro. And if you know, you know, but most people didn't. So I had to introduce people to this movie, including the ones on the panel. And now I'm introducing all of you to it that have never heard of or seen this before. A little less out than my picks, though.
I remember it was in like the prime Hollywood video days when I saw this, but I remember it being I remember seeing ads for it vaguely. Because Nicolas Cage was basically the biggest person ever when this came out. Did you? I was looking at some numbers that I'd never seen or looked up before.
Okay.
Because the thing that I really loved was it started with me looking this up, and I saw that it broke 100 million when it was out.
Yes.
And my first thought was, good God, do I miss the days where movies like this broke 100 million? Because if this came out now, nobody would see it. And so I was like, I wonder how that happened. And the three movies that came out before this for Cage were The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off.
Yep.
The Rock made around 336 million. Con Air made 224 million, and Face Off made 245 million.
Don't forget as
that
well,
was-
City of Angels was a
Yeah,
few
City of
months
Angels
before.
and this were the same year, and City of Angels almost made 200 million.
Yeah,
I knew Nicolas Cage was big in the 90s. I didn't realize he was that big.
And
Because those were all in a row. And it was right at the movie he did before these five, Leaving Las Vegas, which he won his Oscar for.
So he got his award, and then he just went and made money.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here appreciating the irony that the one of the last lines of the movie is, "At least I got to be on TV," and Owen, the one that selected the movie, is not on TV.
Yeah.
I do like the facts
as
because
everyone knows, without me giving anything else away, that wasn't my intention. Believe me.
I was trying to get like the filmography because you were bringing it up, and I just love the fact that Nicolas Cage's page is Nick Cage redirects here, not to be confused with Nick Cave or Nick Gage. And then I'm also wondering why Owen picked this.
It's MDK.
Exactly.
So it's funny because AJ, you mentioned about its box office and everything. It actually made 30 million more, so it actually didn't break. It actually made money. Its budget was about 73, so it's technically speaking, it made its money back and then some.
Which is really, are we assuming that budget includes the alternate ending?
I'd have thought so.
I would say so.
That's a pretty steep budget for 1998 for what this movie is.
I mean, technically speaking, given what it was supposed to be, I have no doubt in my mind all that money went towards that. So, the movie that Snake Eyes debuted at number 2 against, Saving Private Ryan.
That makes sense.
Did that open the same
And
day? Let me just check.
I'll
No,
leave
that
H2O
was Saving
the
Private
same day.
Ryan's. That was Saving Private Ryan's third week.
Yep.
And by about 100,000, it just overtook Halloween H2O.
Yes, I was going to assume that Saving Private Ryan was probably number one for a little while.
God, I feel depressed that guys only had a 47% drop in its second week, but that means the Avengers did more.
Oh no!
I might have to bring that up soon. I don't know what reason. Maybe like why are we wasting Uma Thurman, Ray Fiennes, and Sean Connery? But yeah, it took another couple of weeks before Blade overtook Saving Private Ryan in the box office.
So we have obviously trivia and facts, as we always do every single time around, from Josie. Josie seems to be the one talking in chat right now, so if you are here live, feel free to chime in. So Josie says, I was surprised how tight and witty the script was. Peak David Cope. This is just his movie as it is De Palma's. I wonder if it took any inspiration from 70s conspiracy thrillers.
one of the first things I wrote down was the conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Particularly the scene where he overhears Carla Gugino talking, and the only thing we hear is like "You'll be sorry," and it like reminds me of the scene where Gene Hackman's playing that one line over and over and over again, trying to piece together its context. See, I feel like that has to be a given, right? Especially since De Palma's a director that's known for kind of taking from everybody and not being shy about it.
So Josie said it would be funny to see if Cage attended the Bonesaw Spider-Man cage fight.
I had to stop and think if that was a wrestler reference or but no, Rick Santoro on the sidelines of that. I get it now.
Yeah, I see. Love the Brian De Palma split screens. I like the fact that it keeps you guessing the whole time.
To be fair, that isn't all De Palma. It what's his name? DP. The guy that he collaborated with for many years, Stephen H. Burham.
Yep.
Because ironically, I literally watched a YouTube video about 2 hours before I started watching Snake Eyes, just about how he did a sort of unique style to the first Mission Impossible film, and how Mission Impossible 1 shouldn't be as good as it is, but it's because it incorporates all the sort of work that he did pretty much with De Palma, from the irony not for Scarface but pretty much everything afterwards. Like Body Double was his first time collaborating with him, and then Untouchables, Casualties of War, Raising Cain, Carlito's Way. The last time they collaborated was Mission to Mars, which was the film after Snake Eyes.
There's so many times
he was the director of photography on Mystery Man, so there is a link.
I forget so often how eclectic his lineup is. Like, because he's typically just kind of, when you think De Palma, you kind of think of like his trashy thrillers of the 80s. But he's kind of been in a lot of genres.
Same for Burham though. I see Coppola's Rumblefish. You know, I see St. Elmo's Fire. I see Arthur 2 on the Rocks. And then his last film that he was cinematographer on was Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. Which is interesting.
Think of it. For the kind of movie that is, I am remembering it being kind of dramatically shot.
The main thing with the aspect, at least I saw in the YouTube video, is the key thing that they have is one, long takes, which that beginning I was just getting echoes of Spectre all over again. The first person views, which you get quite a bit of when you get the sort of like how they saw it, and how you get the fly on the wall views of how it happened, and the split room stuff, of which you only really get it when it goes through that hotel floor, through the various rooms. I don't remember seeing anything too similar to it. Maybe I guess the closest thing would be the bit where she's locked away in the sort of outbuilding sort of thing, and kept out of that way. But yeah, I really do appreciate the sort of cinematography of like the artiness, the way the camera just flows as if it's paying attention to what you need to pay attention to right at the start, and only then they add to it by giving you the asides in first person of like, this is what happened from this view.
It's not there's nothing about this movie as far as that stuff goes that would come from like a routine thriller. It's
Yeah.
like that phrase that people use nowadays where it's like that person went hard on this and they didn't have to comes to mind.
True.
It's like De Palma and the DP didn't have to get as creative with this as they did, but it's so much better that they did. Because I wanted to talk about the long takes in general, but I feel like the first thing we got to talk about obviously is the opening scene. Because and it's perfectly timed because we just put out my review of Extraction 2 where I hated on this kind of thing because it's getting way overblown nowadays and way overused. But I really love this opening scene. I don't know about everybody else here, but it was about halfway through the scene before I remembered, oh yeah, they're doing the long take thing. And I love when you don't notice it immediately and it doesn't feel like it didn't feel like a gimmick. It felt like an interesting way to introduce every major player at once. Especially since we're dealing with the whole it felt like a precursor to the point of view thing they'd be setting up. And how we get like the way they would introduce characters also, like how John Hurd is constantly in the background of this long take. Where like we see him on a monitor at the beginning, and then we see him like over Gary Sinise's shoulder when they're talking ringside. And then when Gary Sinise like gets up and walks away, we kind of linger on John Hurd when he stands up and kind of introduces himself, and then we move forward. And it's like how you don't they're hardly he's clearly a major character and clearly has a major part in this, and that's what the camera's telling us. But he also seems like he could just as easily be a background player. And we don't really know which right away. And I feel like that's a great way to utilize that in one way. Did anybody have any theories where the cuts are? I feel like I know.
I think with some of the camera swipes, you could easily do it in such a way that you add it enough of an infancy where you could splice it in to when it pans across to not be where it might need to be. That's the sort of main one that I was thinking of, like some of those like sort of how it's done in 1917, where you have the camera pan and you just digitally sort of put in the edit there.
Yeah, my two. By the way, these are just because I don't think we have confirmation. I was willing to just go with the fact that there weren't, to look it up and found out that there were cuts in it. But if I was told that there weren't any cuts, especially coming from somebody as accomplished as De Palma, I would have just believed it, honestly. And that was my complaint with stuff like Extraction now, is the fact that people go into those long takes nowadays knowing they're fake, so they don't really serve their purpose. But here, like I said, the two places be are when Luis Guzman's running away from him the first time, and when we come around the wall, we're kind of on the wall for a while, and then it's obviously. But I'm almost positive that's not Luis Guzman running down the stairs and climbing that wall. I'm sure Luis Guzman's capable of a lot of things, but I'm not sure that'd be one of them. And then when Tyler comes down the escalator and Rick's like cheering him on, like somebody walks by the camera and it goes like full black for like a fraction of a second. I'm assuming there's one there right before he goes out to the main arena. Other than that, everything looks intact. Unless like you were saying, where it's like when the camera kind of is moving around to show one character from like across the room and then back. Could be, but they're pretty seamless, especially for like 98, where like I said, the hidden cuts nowadays are much easier to find.
And I guess that the advantage of having sort of a 90-minute sort of turnaround time is everything needs to be pacey and get through its results quick. That's why, pretty much everything happens in the first, 10 minutes? Pretty much.
I looked at the time I was watching the DVD. On the DVD, it's like at the 13.5 minute mark when it finally cuts up to like the glass booth when there's an actual cut. So, and the thing about it though is I had read somewhere that they at least got like a 12-minute unedited cut, but the sequence is about 13 minutes. So I'm not sure where the other numbers came from. Brother or Owen, did you have thoughts on the opening scene?
I feel like it pulled you in pretty quick. Like I was pretty into the movie very early. Like the way it was shot, the way they did the beginning, it was easy to get into.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I feel like that's the. What were you saying?
no, go ahead.
I feel like that's the real purpose of a take like that is to be like when you have that sort of fly on the wall feel, or it's like not even a fly on the wall. You're like a fly that's following the action, and it's just happening. And the way that pulls you in, and like to make it the opening scene, I feel like especially it pulled to the player, where it's like if ever there was a place to put a long take gimmicky, the best place is probably the opening scene, right?
Makes sense.
For me, a lot of movies when I watch them, at least a couple times I'll pick up my phone and I'll check to see if I have any messages or anything else like that. And the only time I picked up my phone during this movie was whenever the Pluto app. When the movie was on, like I had no interest in what was on my phone. I was completely.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna say that or the scene in the stairwell with Carla Gugino, because I love Carla Gugino, but I don't think this movie is her finest hour. But we can get into that later.
You were gonna say, Owen, about the opening?
Yeah, I love the way it's shot. Like, for example, like they're fighting, like she's live basically at this point, or she thinks she's live, and she's being filmed, and she's basically being told, "Don't call it a hurricane. It's a holiday weekend." Just like kind of lays back on what's actually going on. I mean, people have eyes, of course, but it's like just kind of leave them in the dark a little bit. It's like, yeah, it's a hurricane, but just call it a tropical storm. Just like, come on, let's make it good for everyone. And it's just like from the second that it starts, it just immediately kicks off when we're introduced to the players. We don't know that's who the players are yet, but we have an inkling because they are important. They are clearly important because they're getting introduced first. You can definitely tell the people in this movie when the order they're getting introduced, they're not something that's not going to matter later on. Everybody has an aura of importance to how the plot's going to unfold.
The one thing I only just now remembered is the touch at the start where the first bolt of lightning is when the touchstone pitcher's bolt of lightning happens. Because
Yes.
at first I thought, oh, well, that's part of the thing. Because I'm pretty sure old touchstone releases did have that as like the sound effect for the intro logo. So I was like, oh, and it's like, oh no, we're still going. It's actually raining. We're using that as a feed in. Actually, pretty clever.
My first thought when they talked about it's not a hurricane, it's a tropical storm. My first thought was so the mayor of Amity became the mayor of Oakland City.
Basically.
And also throughout the entire thing, Ryuichi Sakamoto's score was really good.
Oh yeah, I love the music in this movie.
Really sort of bounced
I
for everything.
I thought it was a little bombastic for my taste, but But then that's another one of those things. There's so many things in this movie that I would say I'm not actually sure what this says about De Palma as a filmmaker. But there's a lot of things in this movie that I feel like I would say are bad things, but they feel at home in a movie. Is that sound bad as far as De Palma goes, or because I love it? But it's like whenever like there's quite a few cases in this movie I feel like of stiff acting, particularly from mainly from the women, like that random horny woman we keep seeing around. And like I said, Carla Gugino, the redhead that's working with Gary Sinise. I mean, with her case though, her performance is like a performance on top of a performance, but still, everything is stiff and weird about it. And like I said, normally that'd be a bad thing, but I was just like, I don't know. It just kind of feels like it feels like De Palma referencing his own '80s thrillers, where those movies are not perfect, and that's what makes them what they are. Like that's their personality, is that his thrillers aren't usually perfect. I don't know.
So yeah, there's a little bit more here from chat.
I guess before we do that, before we go back to the chat, I guess if there was something to branch off of the long take thing, does anybody else just love the fact of cuts are kind of in the movie as a whole? Because like I think about there's quite a few of them, but I think about like the scene Cage is talking to Kevin Dunn the reporter, Kevin Dunn the actor, after everything's gone down, conversation, and while they have that conversation, they go down like 2 flights of stairs, and then he gives him like the bloody money back, which by the way is pretty on the nose to give a reporter literal blood money, but I still love it anyway. And the fact that they use that symbolism more than once in the movie. This scene of him and Kevin Dunn walking down the stairs talking and him giving him the money back is about 1.5 minutes, which isn't, you think like, oh, long takes are like 6 minutes and 8 minutes and 12 minutes and God knows what. I kind of appreciate a movie that can go 1.5 minutes and have a tracking shot that just, it's really nice actually.
Yeah, it's something that
and it feels more.
It's something that I didn't entirely notice at first, but that's probably just because I appreciate that sort of stuff where it's just letting it ride than trying to just get a face shot on sort of everything. Like the first time obviously that crops up is I'm guessing it's done on purpose to counteract the long shot of the intro with the sort of cutting to and from Gary and Nicholas's faces in the corridor when they're trying to come up with like how do we deal with this, before Santorum knows the true extent of what's happened. I feel you've got fast paced stuff there, and then on other stuff you let the camera pan and ramble and linger, not like dramatically long, but just feel the flow. Again, sort of, Paul Greengrass is doing it because it's also a Dutch angle, which is another trait.
What's that term for when you Mandela affect yourself? I don't know how many. I assume there's only one version of this movie.
Yeah, they were fighting for a PG-13.
The scene.
It's only an R-rated version.
So, the scene when Sinise goes into the room and the guy's saying like, Cage broke into my room. He broke into my room, and Sinise is standing there, and then the guy says, is that a silencer? And then Sunny says, what did the guy look like? I've had a memory for eternity that when the guy asks, is that a silencer, Sunny shoots him.
Maybe the trailer was
Am
shot
I...
that way.
Maybe?
I wouldn't have thought they'd reveal it
Yeah.
in the trailer though.
I don't know why, but the guy at the hotel room whose room he broke into, I don't know why, but while I was watching it, I found myself being like, man, I really wish this was Glenn Shaddix.
Oh, that would have been amazing. I thought you were gonna say, for some reason, I thought that guy looked like Josh Gad, and I was gonna say probably because that guy does look like Josh Gad. But I love the Glenn Shaddix idea. That's it. It should have been his character from Dustin Checks It.
Oh God.
I think like
Neil would have put a stop to all this shit.
I don't know what you guys talked about while I had to step away, but I was kind of conflicted how I felt about them revealing that Sinise was the villain so early on. But then the more I think about it, it's like, well, the movie has to wrap up in an hour and a half, so it doesn't really have time to dawdle.
Yeah, I feel like it's near pretty much the halfway point. And yeah, I do that. Yeah, I think in my head, after I hadn't seen it for a while, I was thinking that he was revealed much later than he is. But yeah, I think it's like the halfway mark or a little before it.
Mm-hmm.
De Palma did say,
I kind of wondered if maybe Carla Gugino's story could have been the first hint that he was the villain, and then that could have added an extra layer to the movie to whether we question her story.
I know
Instead of Cage questioning it, we questioned it with him.
Yeah, it's interesting that they took their time revealing her.
Mm-hmm.
I know,
especially with the whole her missing her glasses. It feels like the her missing her glasses thing was supposed to play a bigger part than it did.
Yeah, like I kind of thought maybe she was gonna like mistake Sinise for Cage or something.
Yeah.
I know De Palma in interviews after the fact, when people criticize that sort of reveal, and basically was like, well, I'm not making an action film, I'm making a thriller, and it's basically it's the relationship between these two men, best friends for years, through school and everything, and how it's even brought up very well in the script about Cage is the morally repugnant cop that's taking all these backhanders and everything, and he's been playing it down the middle, and he's just sort of doing the same, and if anything they're sort of pretty much alike, telling a white lie here to try and benefit their own career sort of thing, which it makes sense, because then it's sort of that there's that moment where he takes the cigarette when he's giving the ultimatum of like, tell me where she is and I'll give you, God knows how much money. And you honestly feel that he's actually thinking about taking the money and willing to let morals go by the wayside because it's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, because he normally plays a good guy, but then I was like, oh wait, this was the Face Off was the movie before this. Yeah, for most of Face Off though, he's still the. What was that?
Yeah, go ahead. My point's different than yours. Finish your Face Off point.
Well, I was just saying that for most of Face Off, he is Sean Archer, so he's still kind of the moral character of Face Off for the most part.
When you guys saw this for the first time, did you suspect Sinise?
I think I remember doing it because I was at that age. I was probably like 14 when I saw this. 13 or 14 the first time I saw this. Mm-hmm. Which was the prime age where I'd get really proud of myself if I predicted a twist. And this is I remember that being one of those times. But then it's like you watch it back and it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like I wouldn't be as boastful about it now, but yeah, 14-year-old me was very proud to figure it out.
I had it in the beginning, and then one thing made me question it. So let me guide you through my thought process. I saw Gary Sinise and the way they cut to him, and I was like, well, there's the villain. Like, because it's Gary Sinise and he looked sinister. You know, it's in the name, Sinise, sinister. And then it cut later to John Hurd, and I was like, no, John Hurd has to be the bad guy because it's John Hurd. And then I was like, well, it can't be both. Maybe John Hurd is the red herring villain. Maybe I'm supposed to think he's the villain, and he's not. And it ended up being both of them anyway.
The only thing I can think of is I slightly got called up on it when I'd watched the Manchurian Candidate remake. And, you know, I was going into watching the original as well, and then somebody said, oh, if you like that, you'll like Snake Eyes. So I sort of got called off there, but like, okay, as soon as Sinise came in as a military person, I'm like, I think this is what they meant.
This is also what's interesting to me, and this is something that I honestly would love to see, and I like to visualize it as I watch Snake Eyes. It's interesting that Gary Sinise wasn't the first choice, because Gary Sinise feels so perfectly cast. But I also wonder if he feels perfectly cast because this was only 2 years out from Ransom, which is basically the same thing, where he plays a trusted figure. Who was originally going to play Kevin is
Will
something
Smith.
I would love to have seen, especially in 1998. Say it again, Owen.
Wouldn't that have been right before? Would that have been right before or after Independence Day?
After.
So,
To mine, I actually feel like I read that it was written for Will Smith.
It was, and
Pretty
he didn't
much.
take it because he didn't get offered enough money.
Yeah, he wanted $12 million, and Paramount told him to go fuck himself. Is what I heard.
I just wonder how Gary Sinise feels about this part, with what his character's motivations are, with the backdrop of what he spends his real lifetime, what his foundation does.
It's a very interesting role in retrospect, isn't it?
to be fair, I think the more interesting casting is, what if Nicolas Cage was actually Al Pacino?
Yep, that would be the original casting for Rick Santoro.
I'm assuming he would have been. I feel like he would have been too
no.
similar to Vincent Hanna if he was.
I misread it. I misread Wikipedia. Originally, Al Pacino was supposed to be Kevin Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I really feel like I would have
Okay.
seen him as the heel then.
Al Pacino would have fit
Him get
as the sort of like more like sort of an elderly veteran that was sort of trying to do the best. Maybe, you know, to do with flashbacks to his time in Vietnam, maybe, or stuff like that. Because time-wise, it wouldn't fit with a younger guy like Sinise or Smith playing the part.
I'd love to see Pacino give the monologue after Rick gets the shit beat out of him, and then it just occurred to me, if there's anybody that can direct Pacino while Pacino is going ham, that would be De Palma.
He's proven it multiple times.
Maybe De Palma thought it was too easy.
Yeah.
I also wonder too.
It's also-
I wonder if Kevin Dunn, the character, watched the movie The Rock and sided with Hummel.
Yeah, because he's basically. Would you say Hummel's more human than Kevin Dunn is?
Yeah, I think Hummel's redeemable.
Yeah. By the time Kevin Dunn's monologuing, he seems off the deep end.
Well, that he'd already taken lives at that point.
Yeah. But just when he's charging around the hotel, he looks very unhinged. While we're on the topic, by the way, of what Garrison Ace is doing these days and how that contrasts, I mentioned before that this is the movie technology, and I really wish when we met Gary Sinise, I would was like to receive that line because I've forgotten Gary Sinise was the one on the other end of bitchin' technology. It's like, how do you stand completely? I mean, Gary Sinise is an extremely accomplished actor if you look at his theater background, but like Steppenwolf for God's sake. But yeah, totally straight faced. While Cage says, "Yeah, you got bitchin' technology," is an amazing thing. um, did anybody else have any? I brought up like kind of the stiff acting from the women or the weird characterizations of the women, even the background players. Did anybody have any criticisms?
I mean, some of the stuff. I don't like the fact that when it all went wrong, Kevin was just killing everybody like a motherfucker. Like, bah! I don't give a shit. I'm cold and heartless. I'm doing it for the greater grease. I'd have liked more, like, less sort of that just coming out of nowhere and him just killing his two partners in crime. You know, as if you know there is actually going to be no witnesses. And part of me wonders whether it would have been better, like towards the end, if he hadn't have shot himself, and he sort of went down and sort of, you know, the policeman sort of shot him.
The thing
There
is
was
that
I've
Go ahead, Owen.
see, the thing is, Ashley, that I can think of is he literally had nowhere to go. He's already had his entire like reputation tarnished. He, as a soldier, realizes he can't do anything to get himself out of it. He is trapped to the point, and instead of getting like court-martialed or be put in prison, he'd rather just kill himself.
Yeah.
I may have missed this. Did the cops know he was a threat before they showed up? Because that's it.
That's a point.
I didn't see anything like that, so it seems really sudden to me that the cops show up, see a guy in a military uniform with a gun, and kind of assume he's the threat when there's two other people there. To the fact that they make a beeline for him as if he's the one and only threat, and there's no other possible scenario. And did I miss the part where they knew he was the threat before they?
Well, Santoro's one of them. So they probably saw somebody they worked with getting chased by a guy with a gun and assumed that the guy that they worked with is probably not the guy in the wrong.
Because it says in Wikipedia,
You know what
it says on Wikipedia, Rick uses it as cover to rush Julia outside where the police tipped off by Rick, and I'm like, there was no obvious scene where he actually tipped them off. The only explanation is, like as you said, the spot where they're obviously local colleagues of his. They're not the FBI or any of the other people that have been brought in. They're sort of like officers that would know him personally, that sort of think something's up. That's the only thing I can think of, because I don't remember any obvious tip off that he made to the police.
I've got something to say about brother. When you said they recognized Rick because he's one of them,
Mm-hmm.
what's actually great about that, and I consider this a positive actually. There's a couple of scenes where he flashes his badge around, but for the most part, Rick is such a slimy character. I kind of keep forgetting he's a cop, and I actually like that. But yeah, it does feel like you can tell the climax is not what it was supposed to be.
Considerably, yes, especially when you know.
What remind me again, and I guess anybody else that hasn't read up on it, what was the original climax?
There was a tidal wave that crashed through the casino, caused by the hurricane.
Yeah, because that's another thing where it's like the hurricane's another one of those things where it seems like it's supposed to play more into the plot than it does.
Right.
Because in the movie as is, it's more just like setting.
Because the elements are still there in the film. You see the ambulance and the police van that sort of is about to get washed in by the tidal wave. It's that causes the van to crash in that leads them to find out what happened, in that sort of room sort of area thing. And then also Rick talks about how he about almost drowning, which I think was supposed to be a payoff to the moment when Sinise does the speech about hearing the 23 men in the engine room or whatever drowning in the ship when the rockets went wrong or whatever.
Right.
So there's still elements there. The tidbits are there, but like the best you got with sort of the craziness is basically just the bloody Indiana Jones ball rolling towards everybody, and then the wave coming in. They never explained how the ball untethered itself, because I'd have thought with being how heavy it is, the wind probably wouldn't have blown it free from that cable. Maybe. I don't know physics.
As someone who has experienced hurricanes before a couple of times in the last 6 years I've been here, I will say that winds can be that powerful, Ashley, 100%. Right. But unless you have the Iggy about the actual real ending, you don't know that, and it just seems out of place.
I have another question where I also wonder, there's two characters here that feel a little unresolved, and I was always wondering if that was also something lost to the original ending, but once again, maybe you guys can open my eyes a little bit. My first question is, how guilty is the fighter exactly? Because he seems like he knows a lot. Then he seems like maybe he doesn't know too much, but then he's there to like rough Rick up, acting like he's maybe totally in on it, but maybe not. And we just kind of leave him at that.
I would say that he knows enough and did enough that he's never going to box again professionally, but I don't know if he did enough bad to go to jail. And I guarantee if they asked him to flip on any of those people to avoid jail time, that dude flipped. That dude sang like a freaking canary.
That sounds right.
Yeah. My guess is he sang like a canary, he doesn't box again, and he's forever disgraced.
Well, and AJ, think about the fact that it's already mentioned in like a passing comment that Tyler has been known to gamble on fights in the past, so he probably has a debt that he owes, and that Kevin Dunn's going to take care of.
Well, not now, but
would have if he'd still be alive. That's why he has to do what Dunn tells him to do, because if not, he won't forgive his debt.
So my second question is, and there's a couple of possibilities here. I guess I'm more curious on where you guys, which direction you think it is, or if there's a third option I'm not even thinking of. For how guilty he is in all this, I feel like there's no closure on John Hurd.
He's just a corrupt politician.
So is
He's a
he?
corrupt politician.
Yeah, is he the rich guy that just gets away with it and continues? Or the other thought I had was, it's a very, very vague piece of dialogue because they're talking about the whole thing they're building at the end is his thing.
Right.
But when Carla Gugino's talking about, yeah, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna testify against everybody, does that include him? Or did she even know of his involvement? Or
He's turning over a new leaf, is what it feels like. Because he scrapped the point of everything was the fact that everything he was involved in was such a nefarious thing that he realizes that he needs to go a different route if he wants to continue to run his political games. So he has to kind of backtrack a little bit and eat a little bit of crow. So he has to be like a pseudo babyface, even though clearly his personality does not show that one bit. And by the way, I'm sure you probably could figure out this is kind of a scapegoat for Trump as well. The character is.
yes.
Completely.
And I was going to say that I feel like the ending's a little darker than that. That John Hurd did all this stuff, was part of all this stuff, got away scot-free, and Nick Cage is the one at the end that's going to prison.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because I guess my other thought was these characters that kind of don't seem like they get closure, and we as the audience just kind of have to figure it out. I'm assuming the tidal wave ending turned the movie, basically made the third act a disaster movie.
I would say so.
And disaster movies have very high body counts. Disaster movies are basically slasher movies without a killer. The killer is nature. So I'm wondering if there's characters that survived the movie that died in the original ending. Like, fucking John Hurt's character's name just escaped me.
Gilbert Powell.
Powell, that's right.
There should have been an actor named after him in the movie. We probably remember it.
There were when I brought up criticisms, there just a couple of lines of dialogue stuck out to me. Once again, maybe I didn't quite get what was going on here, but when Sinise is killing the people that work for him, and the Here Comes the Pain guy is laying there, and he's telling Sinise, the guy that he just watched shoot him, I've been shot, like he needs help. That was odd. And I think what it was there seemed to be this trend of characters that were pointing out the obvious to the people that were putting them in situations. Because Here Comes the Pain guy got shot by Sinise and told Sinise, I've been shot. And then later, when Cage clearly locks Carla Gugino into a room to leave her there, she goes to open the door and she says, Rick, the door's locked. It's like, do these people not understand that these people are intentionally doing things to them? But that's whatever. So
I just hope the Here Comes the Pain guy was the inspiration for whenever Brock Lesnar came out and they used to say Here Comes the Pain. I hope that guy was the inspiration.
Dear God.
Speaking of that guy, yeah, surely that guy's been in a WWE arena a time or two. I like the fact that when you watch the opening scene again, it's very fun to go back and watch the opening scene again when you've watched the whole movie. and how crazy obvious it is that the Here Comes the Pain guy has a radio in his ear. And there's literally a shot where you can see him on one side of the screen, and he's like got his finger on the radio. And it's like, I love how out in the open all the scripts of the movie are in the opening scene. That's another great thing about the opening scene being a long take is hears everything that's happening basically, and and it still becomes a puzzle.
I like how it's constantly unfolding too. It's like we are seeing what all the characters are now learning throughout the movie. Like we're like when we have the eye in the sky camera, which confirms that Kevin Dunn is behind all of this. And I love Cage's response too. It's just like you need to get out of here for a second. I need to see this for myself. He's like, no. And he's like, get out of here. So he has to see with his own eyes because he can't believe that his best friend for years is the one that's in charge of all of this. He won't let himself believe it, even though you could clearly tell he believes it, but he doesn't want to believe it until it's shown right in front of his face.
Yeah, his brain is like. So we were talking about the Sinise reveal and where it's placed. Would you guys say this is a perfect runtime? I'm so jaded by. I feel so jaded by the length of movies today. Like I was like, if this came out today, it'd be 45 minutes longer. I love how condensed it is.
Yeah, I feel like being able to put together a really good 90-minute movie has kind of become a lost art.
Yeah.
It's like nobody really knows how to do it anymore.
It's especially good for a movie like this because it's like a movie with this many sort of reveals and the way we see it makes you want to like re-watch it as soon as it's over. Easy to do with a short movie. Mm-hmm. So.
I'm surprised.
Here. What were you saying?
It tells the story in a very concise manner. Something that is, like you mentioned, is a lost art these days. In 1998, it wasn't. It was par for the course, but now it is. This would be a short nowadays.
Were you getting ready to say something else, brother?
Yeah, I was just going to say, after watching this movie, I'm surprised this wasn't on the DVD player looping in my college dorm. Because it feels like one of those movies would have been. 100% would have been. I would have woken up at random points of the night to Gary Sinise.
I don't know if it's from seeing the ads when I was younger or if it was from the fact that it was like right in the peak of when I was going to the video store like every week, teenager. But just seeing this cover gives me some kind of nostalgia I can't quite explain. And another reason why physical media is king, but we won't get into that again. So I was gonna bring up also something we didn't really mention when we were talking about the camera work at the beginning. Do you know what shot I really, really love? How amazing is it when we're getting some of those point of view shots aren't perfect, like when we kind of see like what look like dummy arms coming out sometimes, but when we've got the point of view of Tyler and then he turns and he sees himself in the mirror and with the camera somehow not in this shot, and then as he starts punching the air and that turn towards the mirror, not only do they keep the camera out of the shot, it brings us out of the point of view shot and it becomes like a side shot of him. That's an amazing shot. That's an amazing way to maneuver the camera. I just have to point that out in particular.
It's interesting you don't see that done more.
Yeah. Isn't it weird?
Hard to pull off well.
Isn't it weird how visually unique this 1998 thriller is?
His little hour-and-a-half movie in 1998 in the middle of Nicolas Cage's money run. And here it comes with just all these little innovations and quirks to it.
Yeah, we talked about it passively before, but that overhead shot of all the hotel rooms is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I just think, like, they don't... I know it's cliche to say this, but they don't make movies like this anymore at that length and that ingenuity. Every other movie that looks similar to this is copy-paste. That's why we all make the joke that Olympus Has Fallen and whatever the other President in Danger movie were the exact same movie because they didn't do anything to distinguish the two of them like this one did to distinguish itself.
Like Lighthouse Down.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah, movies just don't have
you say that.
personality anymore. And the personality that they play with is what they can do on their computer.
Yeah.
You don't get
That's
stuff.
When you say you hate to say they don't make movies like this anymore, I also hate like whenever people would say that, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. You're probably 15. Shut the fuck up. But but yeah, the more I go back to older movies, even in the 90s, I find myself saying that more, and I'm saying it, and I don't like the fact that I'm saying it for a reason.
I think music's the same way. If you look at my Spotify playlist, 80 to 90% of it is 80s and 90s music.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Owen said, this movie would have been 45 minutes longer today. There would have been probably a ton of CGI. It would have been overbloated in different places. And it just kind of feels right at home where it's at.
Lens flare. Some sort of stupid lens flare would happen if you tried to remake it. Like the glare up at the thing from Cage. Lens flare.
So, finishing up the chat, there was confusion, according to Josie, with there being a actor Kevin Dunn and a character Kevin Dunn. So much so that Kevin Dunn received a penthouse suite in a fancy hotel during filming that was supposed to go to Gary Sinise.
That's a humorous bit of trivia I've heard a lot. I'm not really sure how true it can be. Something like that would mix up a character and an actor, and I kind of just feel like, to my understanding, the rest of that is Kevin Dunn, the actor, ended up staying at a hotel. He got kicked out of the room.
Correct.
I just feel like Gary Sinise. I feel like Gary Sinise wouldn't let that happen.
I feel like if it would happen to anybody,
I don't know how much I believe that. I mean,
I feel like if it did happen to anybody, it would happen to Kevin Dunn, and it would happen in a hilarious way.
Yeah, Kevin Dunn's characters are him. That's. I now have to sit here and think if that actually happened to Kevin Dunn in a movie, because it might have. But yeah, I never knew how much I actually believed that story, but I have true because that sucks. Like I said, I can't see Gary Sinise just saying like, yeah, or all of his charity work he's done comes back to him trying to for what he did to Kevin by getting him kicked out of the hotel. I'll take that too.
I think the solution's simpler than that. I think Cage set it up.
We know that Kevin Dunn is a naval commander.
Never knew he was that cruel. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think I knocked out all the notes I have.
I'm just finishing chat right now.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything to add either.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to point out is it took me to having to look on Wikipedia to realize the significance at the very end with the ring in the concrete pillar.
Mm-hmm.
Because
But
I
there's
don't
what-
ever
there's, like-
remember a big red jewel on that woman's hand. Ever.
There's one quick shot of it when they're like in the bags and being lifted up.
Yeah, I just
think
thought
that's
that
it.
was... I thought they were putting them in actual missiles because it looked like they were just missiles outside. Not like... I thought we were Doctor Strange.
Yeah, for something that they showed, it is weird for them to show something for a fraction of a second, and then the entire end credits are just building up to a payoff of that thing. I really want to be in a theater in 1998 when this movie was making over $100 million, and watching everybody go, "What the fuck is that?" And then it says the
40 seconds of it is just... Yeah, look how manly that hand is. Oh, wow, wow. Oh, look, there's a jewel there. Like... What?
So we also talked. Josie mentions the fact we talked about Kevin Dunn's character is a naval commander, but Kevin Dunn was a naval commander in Hot Shots. The literal mayor of Atlantic City presents the award at the end of the film. Josie says, I like how this film was set in Atlantic City over Vegas. Not that Vegas would have been a bad choice, but Atlantic City is more unique because we don't see it as often in movies.
Tell that to the woman that wrote and sang the ending music Sin City. I think she was under the impression that it was going to be set in Vegas. And then it's like, it's an Atlantic City. Shit.
I think if the movie would have taken place in Vegas, it would have been 2 Cage at that point, because that would have been Vegas number 4 for him.
It would have been the Great White Hype as a thriller.
If you had asked me before I rewatched this movie again, if you had asked me with my vague knowledge of it where it took place, I probably would have guessed Vegas.
It's
Or assumed
boxing. It's casinos. It's Caesar's Palace and all that all the way, surely. Not fill in for Trump's casino.
Yeah, So this is De Palma's second film set in Atlantic City. The first one was Wise Guys in 1986. One of 3 films that De Palma directed for Paramount. The only adaptation, not an adaptation of a TV series. Lincoln Tyler's character, the actor Stan Shaw, played a boxer in Harlem Nights and in Rocky II.
Hold on. I'm gonna kick myself, but besides Mission Impossible, what was the other TV adaptation from De Palma?
Ooh. Let's have a quick check.
I'm gonna kick myself when I hear this.
Filmography.
Bounty Law.
Yeah. Considering you should probably just bury your head in the sandbox right now, AJ.
I mean, nobody else is saying it, so it can't be that obvious, can it?
Well, the obvious one's Mission Impossible, but I'm trying to work out what the other one was.
Is it Maverick?
Maverick's Richard Donner.
Ah. Well, nobody was throwing
think.
anything out there, so I just threw Maverick out.
De Palma's Maverick would have been wild.
I'm trying to think.
See, I feel like sometimes when I get stuff like that wrong, I create things that would have even been better.
I'm not seeing the answer to this question.
I'm trying to look. Like,
Well, I'm assuming if it was like a Paramount contract, I'm assuming it's in the same area.
or maybe,
Yeah, I'm not
This is,
finding.
oh god. Oh shit. The Untouchables was a TV show. Is that what we're talking about?
originally was it?
We'll assume that because we spent a lot of time on this. The Untouchables was definitely a TV adaptation.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it's Paramount though.
Well, it's based off of a book.
Yeah, Untouchables ran from 59 to 63.
We'll go with that.
All right.
Which is interesting because Untouchables was originally an ABC series.
To tie in the Rocky connection as well, Stan Shaw also played with Stallone in Daylight in 1996.
That and Cage said he was going to call Tyler Mr. T like Rocky 3.
Yep. Similarities between this movie and Mission Impossible, both directed by De Palma and written by David Cope.
Wow. Mission
I
Impossible.
thought there was going to be more similarities there. I won't lie.
Well, I told you about the cinematographer, the DP. There was a similarity there. Although, keep in mind, the first Mission Impossible script was also co-written by Steven Zalian, you know, who did Schindler's List. So
First Mission Impossible has such prestigious credit.
No, but he did Schindler's List and then followed it up with Clear and Present Danger. Like, he went from award stuff to sort of, nah, let's just put the butts in seats. It's only
Here's
in
my
latter
question.
years
This
when
may
he got
be
back
for...
into sort of writing again with, you know, Moneyball, Gold Dragon Tattoo, American Gangster, Irishman. But Exodus, Gods and Kings.
Okay.
What were you about to say, brother?
I was just going to ask, this may be a question for a different video, but you question Mission Impossible 1's prestige. Is that just because Mission Impossible 2 followed it? Like, if we took Mission Impossible 2 out, would Mission Impossible 1 be seen as at the level of all the others?
It seems to be getting, weirdly enough, it seems to be getting a better reputation with time, even though it's not as intense as the others are. Like, I think a lot of thrillers like this, I've seen a lot of people come back to the first movie and say that they like the fact that it's kind of a low key to the big action franchise it is now. So a lot of people, I guess, are kind of seeing it as better than when it came out in circles, I guess, certain circles.
I guess going back to Rocky, it's like Mission Impossible 1 to Mission Impossible now is like Rocky 1 to Rocky 4 when robots came in.
And everything's a montage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky 4 is basically
does
an
feel
action
very
movie.
grounded compared to the rest of the series. The first one definitely feels grounded.
I think the fact that Rocky wasn't rich also played a big part in that.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say about the first Mission Impossible, the helicopter scene in the tunnel is still one of my favorite action scenes of all time. I love that climax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that climax holds up so well. I get pumped when I watch it.
Yeah, so I guess Snake Eyes would have kind of mirrored Mission Impossible if it kept its original ending, where it was basically like a regular thriller with a big action climax. So it kind of fits in well when you see the guy who did the first Mission Impossible also did Snake Eyes, if you didn't know who De Palma was. If they had done that ending.
Josie asked, besides Nick Cage, who gives the best performance in the movie?
I'd say Sinise pretty handily.
Sinise or Luis Guzman? Luis just has the sort of charm. It's like I wanted more. I thought there was going to be more from him in the plot. Like somehow he was going to know about what happened, but nah, he's pretty much gone, and then only appears sort of a brief flashback in the fly on the forehead moment.
Yeah, definitely Gary Sinise in this one.
Yeah, I would go Gary Sinise, but also, and I mean this completely serious, I am not kidding. For what little we get, John Hurt's pretty good too.
Yeah, the scene he
when
had
he's pandering.
Yeah, I love the moment when he realizes that Sinise just killed the other two people, and he asks him like, am I gonna get that treatment too? And you can see the fear in his eyes.
Yeah.
Could that be the moment that turned him around?
Assuming he did turn around, it could be. Could have been the catalyst.
I don't know.
Like a scared straight kind of
confronted.
Yeah.
He got confronted by that, but then did the speech, saying that he'd got word that the government guy had died, and then he did that sort of patriotic, "You will not, take us," because he's obviously got a stake in whatever the air guard thing that's being proposed. So
well, he said they were going to still build it anyway, and claimed that it was what the Secretary of Defense wanted. So I don't think he's turned it around yet.
Oh well, you can tell that by the fact that the POW is laying off people to punish the insubordination, i.e., get rid of the stuff to make sure he can still get away with it and doing it.
He's firing everybody to line his pockets, so if his company goes belly up, he won't.
Yeah.
Now that makes me wonder if it would have felt like we were getting a character arc if those scenes had been reversed. If we had the scene where he makes the announcement first, then the scene when he realizes how close to death he might be. But yeah, it is what it is.
That also, the one that aired also could have been a pre-recorded statement.
True.
Like if he was in on the plan, he might have already had a pre-recorded statement ready to go.
Oh yeah, kind of like how kind of like when they write obituaries early.
Yeah.
Man, that could have made a really incriminating piece of evidence if that was the case, and then it worked its way into the movie. Like somebody found that before the actual announcement. Man, he would have actually gotten caught if that happened. Is that it?
I'm going through chat. Josie talks about Gary Sinise getting awarded the United States of America Presidential Citizens Medal in 2008. And the fact that Sinise shares a birthday with Rob Lowe, his co-star in The Stand.
And the old Lieutenant Dan band.
Cool.
Yeah, she does also mention the Lieutenant Dan band, which is another reason why AJ and Chris got to meet him. Kevin Dunn was once considered for George Costanza.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Jason Alexander's perfect, but man, I'd buy it. In an alternate universe, I'd buy it.
So he could have been Bizarro George instead of Jeremy Piven.
Yeah. I feel like Kevin Dunn could have really been anybody in the Seinfeld universe, and he would have fit right in.
Was he ever on an episode? I feel like he was.
I feel like he got mixed up with Kramer somehow if he did.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. He almost feels like a character that would get mixed up with Kramer and Newman would be jealous.
Yep. Oh, I have a picture of him sitting at Monk's Coffee Shop, good sir. The episode was called Male Unbonding. It took place in
That's
19...
right. He was a really clingy friend.
Yep.
Yes. I remember that now.
I thought that, but then I thought I was getting confused because he also played a very clingy person on Roseanne. So I guess that was his sitcom thing.
Damn. Oh, and I'm glad you looked that up. Because I'd have kicked myself if we'd have found that out later.
Type in Kevin Dunn Seinfeld. Credits. Because, literally, Josie says always found Carla Gugino quite underrated.
You know, like I said, I don't think she's very good in this, but I like her as in total.
Mm-hmm.
That's her performance in the stairway scene is rough. I'm sorry.
The set decorator Daniel Carpenter also was in the art department for the Are You Afraid of the Dark TV series.
We literally referenced that before we started recording.
Yep.
We referenced Are You Afraid of the Dark before we started recording.
That dude from filming the Think the done.
Costume designer was also did costumes for Secret Window. The production designer was
Another David Cope, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Secret Window's another David Cope movie.
That's mentioned in there.
Did we? I was gonna say, did we mention that already? Ignore me.
I don't think so. The production designer was also on Affliction, which also came out the same year. Josie mentions the editing nominees, the 1999 Oscars, Saving Private Ryan, which won, but its opponents were Shakespeare in Love, Life is Beautiful, Thin Red Line, and Out of Sight. Would you kick out one for Snake Eyes?
No.
Yeah, I keep those, but are we gonna bring up cinematography?
I only have two things on here: editing and screenplay.
Hang on.
I'd have to rewatch Shakespeare in Love to get a feel for its editing.
Let's have a quick check. 19.
Shakespeare in Love and editing could have been a Coattail nomination, but I don't want to assume that without rewatching it first.
Cinematography was Private Ryan winning, with other nominees being Elizabeth, Shakespeare in Love, The Thin Red Line, and A Civil Action.
Rewatched A Civil Action in the last year. That's a That's an interesting choice. I'd probably take it out.
Yeah, that's
And
why I
put
left
Snake
it
Eyes
last
in.
because I was like, that's the Academy being the Academy.
It's very dark looking. I don't know. That's an interesting nomination, but
Screenplay went to Shakespeare in Love. Or would you bump out Saving Private Ryan, Life is Beautiful, Bulworth, or The Truman Show?
no, all those are staying.
Yeah.
If any change I would make, I would have the Truman Show beat Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah, with that list for sure.
Because did we say Private Ryan was in there?
Yeah, it's the
Private
second.
Ryan's writing is very Private Ryan's writing is very underrated. People will probably say, "Oh no," I've heard people say the script is bad. No, Saving Private Ryan is very well. The dialogue scenes are very well done, and structure-wise and everything, that's it. It definitely should be there.
Brian says, Owen, you did another great pick. What a fun crime movie this was. Although I do think the kiss at the end was unnecessary, especially with their age. Age doesn't matter, Brian.
I would
How
have to
far?
agree there. I don't think the age has anything to do with it, but yeah, I don't know that their relationship was at that level yet.
We don't know what happened in between the times that Cage was fighting off the paparazzi.
Well, we know his wife ran away and his girlfriend ran away, and it only could have been worse if they ran away with each other.
Yes.
I literally just finished this movie like an hour before this
They're,
video.
they're only Carla and Gugino are only 8 years apart.
I was gonna say, don't they mention like she's 26
Yep, she's
and
26
he's
and he's
35,
35.
so 9 years isn't dramatically terrible.
That's
Yeah,
nothing.
right now she's 51 and he's 59. When you look at it that way, it's not that bad.
So it looks like Brian gets a question for Chris since he wasn't here for 32. Buy one, rent one, lose one. First half of the year of Popcast Movie Club. You can rule is you can't pick one of your own at all. So we've got Scott Pilgrim, Duck You Sucker, Friday Night Lights, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Great White
Don't-
Hype.
Hold on, don't mix mine in there. You'll just confuse me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
try.
I don't remember yours. 'Cause I was never
I'll try and work it out. So,
Do it.
Duck Sucker, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Great White Hype, Crying Game, Mighty Wind, Collateral, Angus, Long Good Friday, and Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Man, I never say this in this game, but I don't want to dump any of those.
I apologize to you because when we did this, I dumped Scott Pilgrim.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards too. No, it's too much of an easy comfort movie. I'm gonna have to dump A Mighty Wind. I'm sorry, Owen. I'm sorry, Eugene Levy.
Don't worry, he'll be back soon enough.
I would rent. Oh man, I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna buy Die Hard with a Vengeance just because I can't imagine what my life would be like without Die Hard with a Vengeance because it's pretty much for 3 years in college. So I guess that would be for rent. You turd. Let's rent The Crying Game because I feel like it's important. That was
Okay.
tough. That's the toughest rent buy get rid of that I've ever done. That tells you the quality of Movie Club right there.
Josie also says, imagine Nick Cage at the Great White Hype. Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially given the circumstances.
I don't know if it's my association with you in both of these movies, but I could just literally imagine Rick Santorum as a character in The Great White Hype.
No, for sure.
If we're gonna make a trade with the Great White Hype, all I ask is that we bring back Samuel L. Jackson to play Kevin Dunn, if in this alternate universe.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Mhm.
Is it Sam Jackson as Kevin Dunn, or is it Fred Sultan as Kevin Dunn?
Oh man, it'd have to be Sam Jackson.
I could really see Jackson doing the whole I'm crazy, but I think I'm doing this for the greater good kind of thing.
You mean kind of like he was in
Has
Kong
he
Skull Island to an extent?
Yeah. I feel like the guy in Kong is a little more cold than Kevin Dunn,
Hmm.
but somewhere in there, yeah.
I mean, Kevin Dunn does have a body count of what, 4 in an hour and a half? That's pretty good. I mean, that's
in a very small window. And he
that's a lot.
was more than willing to he was more than willing to continue piling them too.
Yeah, the only place he was going to stop was Nick Cage. And that probably would have been his easiest kill all night.
Problem is, when you were saying Kevin Dunn, I thought you were thinking of like Kevin Dunn the actor rather than the character. But then again, I'm thinking, considering Jackson's role in that RoboCop reboot as the sort of loudmouth sort of guy, he'd be a good fit there as well.
That's why Samuel L. Jackson is Samuel L. Jackson. He could literally have been anybody. And it's like, yeah, I could see him making that work.
He could have been
because I could even see
dress.
him being Ricky Santoro.
Yeah.
He could have been Serena in the red dress. We'd have allowed it.
AJ might have liked the performance better if he was Carla Gugino's character.
Yeah. Oh, Samuel Jackson would have killed that stairway thing.
In either role, just let him do both. Do it Eddie Murphy style.
Yeah, and don't stop there. The whole movie, he's everybody.
Dude, how has nobody ever tried? That should be that should be Sam Jackson's final movie. A movie where he plays all the characters and all of the different range he has, and then he should retire after that.
I think we should also King Kong him and have him play the ball that rolls down the
Also, I think
the side of the building and gets washed in by the storm. Just mocap him as a ball.
And I know
Eat your heart out,
there's
Andy Serkis. I'm a giant ball. I'm a ball, motherfucker.
Not to mention, I know there's a movie Owen's going to bring up soon where we will learn that Samuel Jackson could also give Tyler. I imagine that's not too far away.
No, it's not. I haven't decided when I want to do it yet. It's not coming up anytime soon, but it's coming. I feel I need to get away from this genre for a minute, though.
Yeah, just maybe a couple more over.
We'll be there. I don't know if we'll be there until 2024. We're definitely going to be there. We'll do some battling somewhere soon. If you know, you know, and I think only AJ knows, so we're good. How's your chat? So final thoughts on Snake Eyes, Ashley?
Really enjoyable little film. You know, it's nothing that I will massively go back to sort of grabbing in terms of sort of wanting to see again, but it'll make me maybe want to see it again when it shows up, when it goes up on the television cycle every few months or whatever, whichever station it be on.
Chris.
I had a great time. It hooked me in from the first minute. I enjoyed it. I was genuinely interested to see where it went. There wasn't really anything that dragged to me. Yeah, next time me and AJ are at the exchange, if I see it for a few bucks, I'll pick it up.
There you go. AJ?
There's this YouTube channel I've been watching. I think they're called Vampire Robot, where they have these old home videos of stuff from like the 90s. And quite a few of their videos are where they were recording outside of the movie theater in the 90s, like 91 and 92, and then like 96 and 97 and stuff like that. And it's interesting to see the movies that people like went to then and which movies were really big back then. And like we were talking about before, the movies that would not be big now, like a movie like this making 100 million. So like I was saying before, for me there's just a nostalgia factor to this movie of the kind of movies that used to be really, that's kind of what it takes me back to. And that's the feeling that I come away with most. But like I said, also just the idea of this movie being so creative visually in this really unexpected way for a movie like this. There's a lot of really interesting things about this movie, even if I do have a lot of criticisms to go with it. Yeah, there's just something almost enchanting about this movie to me in a really weird way. Yeah, that's hard to explain.
Everyone that's watched this for the first time, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you didn't, it's understandable. Sometimes it's just our movie club picks are not for everybody. We get that. So it's nice to see everyone gave it a chance. A nice thriller, kind of a palate cleanser and everything like that. Really just a fun ride from beginning to end. And prime Nicolas Cage here. Gary Sinise just so great in it. Everybody just delivers. And I've always enjoyed this movie. If it didn't have the backdrop of boxing, would I like it as much? Probably, but maybe I wouldn't have found it till later on. But definitely not the last time we'll talk boxing on this network. Definitely not the last time we'll bring up Nicolas Cage on this network, obviously. So thank you for checking out Snake Eyes. That's going to be your show. So, interesting programming note. You've noticed that, and I want to give, I was just going to go ahead and just do this publicly because I haven't got a chance to do it. I kind of did it like privately, but I want to do it publicly because I feel like it's much deserved. After July 4th, when I got to spend the entire day on the Red Circle, just like nature intended, finally got Golden Dream. That video is coming soon. All of those videos are. I have 8 of them, actually. I didn't have any content. I've been having some problems getting content lately. AJ's had some issues with circumstances beyond his control, and I haven't been able to really do anything like I'd want to because right now I just don't feel right being on camera for many reasons. If you know, you know. Hopefully that'll be ceasing soon, but that's not up to me. I will say right now that somebody did decide he wanted to pull their weight more so than before, and I am extremely fortunate that Ashley took the reins these last 10 days and put up content for you guys, so you'd have not only snack stashes but also gaming content. And Ashley really went to bat for us, and I really wanted to thank him publicly on here during this Popcast Movie Club for taking over the network for the last week and a half plus, and hopefully we're not seeing the end of Ashley content on this channel.
I've still got to get around to fixing my bloody cloud save issues with Steam and actually showing off some of Power Wash Sim. I want to clean the blooming invisible boat thing, whatever, I can't remember it is. Hell yeah.
So yeah, there's that, which is great, and we appreciate that. And Ashley will be bringing more gaming content. More snack stashes are coming in the future. Follow him on Twitter at AshIsMyNameUK, and check out his content. It's been very much appreciated lately.
Weirdly, the Isaac stuff has been doing better than I thought.
I'm not surprised. It's a new thing that we've never done on the channel before, so it's something that's kind of like bringing new eyes to the network for the first time.
I guess I've got to do that on a regular basis again.
Hey, we'll get a calendar again, and we'll have another thing. But speaking of calendars and speaking of other circumstances, brings us to Chris, who can be found with his own podcast of his own. Chris, put yourself over.
Instagram, Chris Hunts Toys, on YouTube and Spotify, the Figures and Flippy Shit Wrestling Podcast. Usually every Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday. There is no audio for today, though, because after I plugged in my splitter, I forgot to plug in my microphone into the splitter. So it was just dead air for an hour and 20 minutes. So you'll just have to see the YouTube version that'll go up tomorrow.
All right. And, of course, just like Keith Richards, he cannot be killed by conventional weapons, and he cannot be found on any form of social media, but he is slowly but surely coming back to the network with more movie content. If you wanted to hear what AJ thought about Sisu, a gem that not enough people saw, that video's up now. It actually went up yesterday. And AJ's got a lot of things that he'll be doing throughout the next 4 months. Some things that kind of blow your mind. Not just reviews, but verses. Speaking bluntly, he's coming back, obviously, with Oppenheimer, so we've got that to look forward to. And, AJ's got a new segment. AJ, you want to tell everybody about what's going to happen sometime in the next few months?
We've kind of hinted at it before. Just the whole thing about looking back at old videos in a certain way, and basically me criticizing myself. The way movie reviews typically go, where it's like they talk to you and then they show you a clip of the movie and then they criticize that clip of the movie. It's me doing that to old videos. But the reason I've been laughing for like the last 5 minutes is because when I Googled Nicolas Cage to find out his age, it's still up, so I just know when I X out of Discord he's gonna jump scare me, and the anticipation. By the way, I haven't slept much this week, so I think that's playing a part in my fearing a Nicolas Cage jump scare when I close Discord.
So yeah, that's AJ's content. Like so much stuff coming in September and October.
Yeah, and I'm a little over halfway editing my brother's next video, so that's the other thing I'm doing.
Sure. I can be found on Twitter at Sir Owen Disney. I've got all the voices content from July 4th. I've got a bunch of sip and snacks I've yet to film. You'll see me soon enough. Once you do, then you'll know. And then you'll see my face every single time that we do these things. I will disappear for a bit, but obviously that means that it's about time for our Oscar predictions to kick off. And basically in a week and a month from now, we're going to start our Big 8 predictions. We start all over again, and we also get to predict an award ceremony this year. So we'll get to that later. But yeah, there's all that stuff still to come, so stay tuned. More information. Tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be live for our QA show, and Ashley will put up the link early so you can get your questions in. That's worked really well. We've got Brian's games, we've got Josie's games, and we've got all the questions, so all that can be found as well. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow night. 2 weeks from now, we're back here for movie club and Q&A. I will say that tomorrow we'll officially make our choice for what we're picking for what you can vote for movie club. So we've got August and September for movie club, and October is actually going to be dealer's pick. So yeah, we're going to be taking care of more of a horrific format for the month of October for good reason. The three members on the panel that actually you can see their faces right now and not in a picture form, they're going to be picking horror movies, and they're going to bring those to you guys for movie club while I am away doing hopefully fun things. We'll see soon enough. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Thanks everyone for listening, and if you did not chime in, thank you for watching. In the meantime, stream intellectual property. Always have the best day ever. And in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. Till next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.